Hey, I just wanted to give you a quick how to set up or open unconditional surrender on Vassal. Um, this is assuming you have downloaded and installed Vassal and then downloaded the module file. So I'll just open up the application. You can see I have a couple modules already listed here. All you would need to do is hit File, Open Module, and then navigate to the module. It's usually a vmod type extension, and then you'd click Open, and then you'd see it import, and then you'd see it open up. So here I just have already imported these modules. I'm going to double click on Unconditional Surrender. You should see a splash screen like this. I'm going to start the game, but you're more than welcome to do this to try it and play around. But I'll go ahead and start up the game. I'm going to start off offline because we're going to play it asynchronously. So I will choose Poland 1939. This basically loads up the game as listed in the playbook for that scenario. And then I'll hit Next, and I will choose Axis. If you choose Solitaire, you can basically move around all the pieces. But if you choose one, it's going to be tied to your computer, so you won't be able to move or see the other powers. So I'll start this up, and I'll go through a couple of the first sequences. And the first thing we do in the weather phase is to roll 3 dice, and only the Axis does it. So I click the 3 dice button. You'll see right here I have a 4, a 6, and a 2. And that is to find out these weather conditions. So I'll look at the player aid chart, and I'll notice that in September, a roll of 1 through 6 in the cold zone is fair, 1 through 6 in the mild zone is fair, and 1 through 6 in the warm is fair. So I know that these are all fair. So during this training scenario, we won't really be hindered at all by weather. Another thing to note is Vassal records these entries as, or your actions as entries in this log, and of course we can save this, and this is how we'll scroll through the game as we post the files back and forth to each other. And that's it for the weather phase. Only the Axis player rolls it because they're the first person to go in their impulse orders. So going to the next sequence, I know in this training session we don't do a declare war phase, so I'll go through it. Western doesn't, Soviet doesn't. The economy phase is also not used in this training scenario. We are assumed to have all of the production points needed. So I'll go through mine, Western, and Soviet, and then we will also skip the strategic warfare phase for all 3 powers, and that leaves us at the operation phase. Now this is the phase in which you'll do a lot of your moving and such. So I'll bring up the mini map, and I'll click here. You can see the units already laid out. You can zoom in pretty deep actually, and if you right click anywhere on the map, it centers the map. So if I right clicked on Eastern Poland here, it would then put that in the center. So if I wanted to center over here, I'd right click there and it moves it around. So you can see how that is helpful by navigating. I'll zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to dismiss this. And I also want to show you that on the Western faction card, what we're really doing here in this scenario is the Axis is trying to have Poland collapse. So Poland's national will starts out as 12. This is the 10s, and this is the 1s. So it's at 10 and then 2. So it starts off with 12, and my whole goal is to remove and your national will down to 0. So that's what this track here is for. Of course, this is the production points that you would get for factories, but we're not going to use it in this training scenario. I did want to show you one other thing. Here, you will have options to commit ground support for any combat that we use. Well, ground support, obviously. And I'll show you how that works when we get to it. But I just wanted to show you that was there. Mine, I don't have any of these conditional events, and my national will is not part of the scenario, so we don't even worry about tracking it. Really, this is only just to show how activation works, zone of control works, how mobile combat works. I think they want you to ignore assault combat in here. And to highlight the movement, if you look at the player aid, you can see that it has these things listed out as well. So movement points for leg, ground units are 8, all units are 10. Of course, if they're in low supply or no supply, it's cut in half, but we won't worry about that in this scenario setup. So basically what I need to do now is move any one of my units that I want to do, or activate them. And again, we're not going to measure production points, so I'm just going to be able to move them all. And then what we do need to make sure we keep track of is movement points. And so if I bring this back up, there are 2 tracks on the map for this. Here's the movement point track and the dice roll modifier track. The map has 2 of these on it, and the other one is down here, and that's because some scenarios only use the east and the west, or the west, and some scenarios use both. So in this configuration, we're using both maps that the game supplies with, and consequently there are 2 tracks. But this scenario is set up to use the track up at the top. So with a movement point of 8, I will move some units around. I think I will move this German 4th Army. I will activate. All it does is flag it so you can show it's activated. I'll move them here. Now I'm in your zone, enemy zone of control, so I cannot move anymore. I must either end my movement or fight. However, I'm going to fight. So at this point, what I would do is, hold on. Okay, I looked at the player aid for a moment. That's also online, or in the Vassal game you can look at. I kind of find it hard to read, so maybe you might want to print them off, or I can print you some. So I activated this guy. I moved him. It's 1 movement point. I will move that just to show you how many I've moved. I then need to call an attack. And an attack costs, let's see if it's on the player aid card. Let's go in front of these guys. Aha. That's the inside and the outside. I'm sorry about that. Of the printed 2-fold player aid. So I had to find it in here. When you move into an enemy zone of control, and then you want to declare combat like I have here, you have to pay the movement point to move into that hex, and then you have to pay the movement point to move into this one, assuming that you would win, and then you could, and then another movement point to initiate combat. So I will mark that as 2 more movement points. 1, 2. So I've used up 3. Remember, I have 8. So I will go back here. Now at this point in the game, we would look at our charts, and you can look at the steps of ground support. I'll pull them up here, and they are listed here. So let me zoom in. So in this area, it says ignore the number, the plus number sign on the table. So see how all these results have like a plus number? So when you do ground combat, you don't worry about the plus number. You're really just looking for DR, DD, DE, AA, AS, and that's it. And of course, this table down here is where that gets described. So that's the results, I'm sorry. So here are the steps. So I'm doing a mobile attack. I'm not initiating anybody else, so I don't need to worry about primaries and such. We then take a will commit or a will not commit marker and then secretly decide if we're going to commit anything to the combat rolls. And what this is what you could use is secretly using one of these guys, these ground support events, which, if you look over here, you'll notice that it adds, I believe, +2. Ground support. Oh, does it say it on here? No, it doesn't. Sorry about that. I had to look that up. It's in the rule book, and if you'll see right here, it says committed event markers DRM. Ground support listed in the rule book as a +1 modifier. So we would do that, and then add up whatever else we have DRM wise, and the game has these tracks here. So there's the defender and the attacker, and I'm going to move these separately. Now I'll say because Germans have a +2, I'll add a 2. I'll put yours back at 0, and then we would count them up and then roll the dice. So that's just kind of an overview of how the game works. We'll get into more details later, but I just wanted to give you an overview of how that worked.